Audrey was 30 years old, a single mother raising her daughter in a world she had never felt safe in. But her story didn't begin with heartbreak. It began with silence. A silence so loud it echoed through every childhood memory. A silence that wasn't peaceful, but suffocating. In the Thompson family, Audrey had always been the problem, the emotional one, the difficult one. Her father, Howard, was a successful corporate attorney. His suits were sharp, his tone sharper. To him, family was a reflection of his public image, clean, polished, controlled. Her mother, Eleanor, was the principal of the local high school and a master at pretending. She smiled at the neighbors, ran every holiday like a PR campaign, and believed that emotions were best dealt with by pushing them far out of sight. And then there was Derek, Audrey's older brother, the golden boy, athletic, ambitious, always one step ahead in life, and always forgiven. No matter what he said, no matter how he acted. When Derek lied, it was a phase. When Audrey cried, it was drama. By the time she turned 12, Audrey had learned the most important rule in the Thompson household. If you want love, be quiet. If you want peace, disappear. But Audrey was never good at disappearing, and that was her original sin. Audrey knew the risks. She knew that bringing Lily back to the Thompson Lake house, even just for one weekend, was a gamble. But she told herself it would be worth it. Maybe this time things would be different. Lily was 6 years old, bright, curious, fearless in the way only children who haven't learned shame can be. She sang everywhere, in the car, at bedtime, even while brushing her teeth. She danced to music only she could hear. She loved freely, fully, and loudly, and Audrey loved that about her. She wanted Lily to know that family wasn't always cold silence or conditional love. She wanted her daughter to feel what Audrey had never been allowed to feel as a child, that she belonged, that she was safe. So when the invitation to the annual family reunion arrived, Audrey paused for a long time. Her fingers hovered over the RSVP, and then she said yes. Because even after everything, even after the years of favoritism, dismissiveness, and pain, some part of Audrey still hoped that maybe, just maybe, the people who broke her wouldn't do the same to Lily. Lily had no idea. She bounded out of the car, her little suitcase bumping behind her, already humming a tune as her sandals clapped against the stone driveway. To her, the lake house was magical, a place with water, trees, cousins, and adventure. To Audrey, it was a haunted house dressed in cedar and stone. And the moment they stepped through the door, the old tension returned, thick, invisible, inescapable. A perfectly arranged living room, a silence that wasn't calm but loaded. Smiles that didn't reach the eyes, hugs that lasted 1 second too short. Lily didn't notice. She skipped toward the staircase, singing a silly, made-up song about butterflies and waffles. Her voice echoed through the grand hallway, light, joyful, unfiltered. But in the Thompson family, joy like that was never truly welcome. Audrey glanced at her mother's expression, tight-lipped. Her father didn't even look up from his newspaper. Derek smirked. Natalie gave a small, polite nod. Only one person looked at Lily with something like warmth, Paul. Paul, the quiet cousin-in-law with a camera strapped across his chest, was setting up audio equipment near the windows. Audrey walked past him slowly. "You filming this whole thing?" she whispered. Paul didn't look up, just gave a small nod. "Documenting the legacy," he said. "Your dad's idea." Audrey nodded back, but something inside her twisted. Because in this house, legacy didn't mean love. It meant control. And the microphones were already on. The next morning, the smell of catered waffles and brewed coffee drifted through the lake house. Audrey and Lily entered the great hall together, sunlight pouring through the floor-to-ceiling windows. Lily, wearing her favorite butterfly sundress, skipped ahead with excitement. She spotted the table where the cousins were sitting, kids a little older than her, already halfway through breakfast. As Audrey poured herself a cup of coffee, Lily settled in at the small table. At first, everything seemed normal. until Lily started to sing. Softly at first, just humming the melody from her favorite cartoon. Then, as the joy bubbled up inside her, her voice grew louder. It was innocent, pure, a 6-year-old sharing her joy the only way she knew how. But the room changed. One cousin glanced up and rolled her eyes. Another elbowed his brother and whispered something behind his hand. No one laughed. No one joined in. Audrey noticed the shift immediately. The stifling silence, the awkward glances. She turned her head just in time to hear her mother Eleanor say, in a low, clipped tone, "Little girls shouldn't make such noise at the table." Audrey froze. It wasn't the words themselves, it was the weight behind them. The old message reborn. Your voice is too much. You are too much. And now they were saying it to Lily. Lily kept singing. Her little voice floated through the air like sunlight, unaware of the storm gathering just beneath the surface. Audrey felt it before she saw it. She looked up, and there it was. Derek, sitting across the room, leaning back in his chair, bourbon glass in hand at breakfast. His jaw was clenched. His thumb rubbed slow, controlled circles against the rim of his glass. He didn't say a word, but his body said everything. He glanced toward Audrey, then toward Lily, and then away, as if even looking too long would cost him composure. Audrey knew that look. She had grown up under that look. The one that said, "You're making a scene." The one that came before the punishment. And it wasn't just Derek. Her father, Howard, folded his newspaper not neatly, but with deliberate irritation. Her mother, Eleanor, stirred her tea with one too many clinks, loud, sharp, disapproving. The room had turned. Audrey felt like she was back at 12 years old again, being scolded for crying too loud, for asking too much space, and now it was Lily's voice, not hers, drawing the heat. It happened in a second. One moment, Lily was mid-chorus, smiling, singing, coloring with her whole body. The next, Derek's chair scraped violently against the hardwood floor. He stood. Everyone turned. He walked fast, focused across the room, past the long oak table toward the children's corner. Audrey opened her mouth to speak, to stop him, but she was too slow. The slap came down hard and sharp. The sound echoed through the grand hall like a gunshot. Lily's little body jolted. Her colored pencil dropped. The imprint of Derek's hand bloomed red across her cheek. And then, silence. Frozen forks, wide eyes, open mouths. For 1 second, the Thompson family actually stopped pretending, and then came the words. "Well," Howard muttered, folding his napkin calmly, "she needed to learn some shame." Eleanor gave a light tinkling laugh. Audrey never did understand how to raise a quiet girl. Audrey stood there frozen, watching her daughter cry in a room full of people who felt nothing. No one noticed the microphone. No one remembered the little black device Paul had clipped behind the curtain near the bay windows, meant to capture natural family moments for the Legacy documentary. But it had captured something else. Everything. The slap, Derek's voice calling them useless, Howard's cold remark about shame, Eleanor's laughter. It was all on tape. And in the silence that followed, Paul didn't move. He stood by the window, still as stone, eyes wide, hand still resting on his sound recorder. He didn't speak. He didn't need to. His face said everything. Across the room, Audrey gathered Lily into her arms. Her daughter was shaking, sobbing against her chest. Audrey's eyes swept across the room, but no one met her gaze. She wasn't 12 anymore. She wasn't the scared girl who used to bite her tongue, swallow the pain, and beg for affection in small, silent ways. She was a mother now, and her voice was no longer quiet. Without a word, she turned and walked out, holding Lily close. Not running, not flinching, just done. Lily's sobs came in sharp, hiccuping waves. Audrey held her close as they stepped into the guest bedroom, the smallest one tucked in the back of the lake house. She sat on the edge of the bed, pulling Lily gently into her lap. Her daughter's cheek was still bright red. A perfect outline of Derek's palm was blooming like a bruise beneath her soft skin. And then, in the smallest voice Audrey had ever heard from her, Lily whispered, "Did I sing wrong, Mommy? Is that why Uncle Derek hit me?" Audrey froze. The words pierced deeper than the slap ever could. She swallowed the lump rising in her throat. How do you explain to a 6-year-old that her voice, her joy, was never the problem? How do you tell her that the people who are supposed to love you sometimes simply don't know how? For a moment, Audrey felt the old reflex stir inside her, the urge to downplay, to smooth things over, to protect the image of the family. But then she looked at Lily, at the tears, the confusion, the pain, and in that moment, Audrey knew this was no longer about surviving her family. This was about protecting her daughter from them. A soft knock on the door. Audrey tensed her arms, still wrapped around Lily, whose sobs had finally slowed to quiet whimpers. "Who is it?" she called, trying to steady her voice. A pause. Then came the answer, low, calm, and familiar. "It's Paul. Just me. Can we talk?" Audrey opened the door a few inches. Paul stood there, no camera, no gear, just him. His face was pale, jaw tight, but his eyes were steady. "I got everything," he said quietly. "The whole thing, the slap, what Derek said, your dad, your mom laughing. It's all on the recording." He reached into his pocket and held up a small USB drive. "It's yours, if you want it." For a moment, Audrey didn't move. She stared at the tiny silver object, no bigger than a house key, and felt its weight. Not physical, but emotional. It held truth, proof, power. Paul's voice softened. "I know, I'm just the guy with the camera. But what happened? That wasn't right. And I don't think you should have to fight this alone." Audrey took the drive. She didn't say thank you. She didn't cry. She just nodded once and closed the door. Because now she had something they couldn't take back. Audrey sat on the edge of the bed, holding the USB drive like it was a lifeline. Lily had cried herself to sleep. Her breath was soft now, her body curled under the blanket, but the red mark on her cheek still burned like an open wound. Audrey picked up her phone, scrolled to Tara, pressed call. 2 rings. "Hey," Tara answered, cheerful and unsuspecting. "How's the reunion from hell?" Audrey didn't respond right away. She stared at the wall, then whispered, "Derek hit Lily." Silence. Tara's voice dropped instantly. "What did you just say?" "He slapped her," Audrey repeated. "Across the face, in front of everyone, because she was singing." "Tell me you're not still there," Tara snapped. "Not for long," Audrey whispered. "I've packed most of our things." "Good," Tara said, voice shaking with fury. "Come straight here. I'll make up the guest room. And if that bastard or your parents follow you, I swear—" Audrey smiled, just barely. She didn't realize she'd been holding her breath until she heard Tara's voice. There was something about being believed. Something about knowing someone would fight for you, even from miles away. She hung up and zipped the last bag. In the hallway, she passed Eleanor, who arched an eyebrow but said nothing. Howard didn't look up from his tablet. Derek lounged on the sofa, sipping whiskey like nothing had happened. No one stopped her, because in their eyes, it was just drama. Just Audrey being overly emotional again. And that was their first mistake. The morning after she left the lake house, Audrey sat across from Tara at the kitchen table, hair still damp from the shower, eyes still hollow from everything that had happened. Tara poured her coffee, slid a plate of toast across the table, and asked gently, "So, what now?" Audrey took a slow sip. "Then, I'm going to decline the trust fund." Tara looked up, startled. "Audrey, that's over $100,000. You sure?" Audrey nodded. "I've done the math. If I pick up double shifts for 6 months, cut expenses, take freelance admin work, Lily and I will be okay. Not luxurious, but safe." Tara stared at her. "But that money's yours." "No," Audrey said, voice steady. "It's a leash, a trap. Every check comes with strings. The second I accept $1, I'm expected to stay quiet, smile at family dinners, pretend none of this happened. She looked out the window, sunlight spilling over the garden Tara kept alive with care. The price of that money is silence, and I'm not willing to pay it anymore. There was no anger in her voice, just clarity, just peace, the kind that only comes when you finally walk away from something that's been poisoning you your whole life. The pediatrician's office was quiet, too quiet for Audrey's racing heart. Lily sat on the paper-lined table swinging her legs. She was calmer now, but her eyes were dimmer. The sparkle had faded. The doctor, kind but firm, examined her face. Bruise, swelling, redness trailing across the cheek and lower jaw. Then the questions. Did someone hurt you, Lily? Lily looked at her mom. Audrey nodded softly. It's okay, you can tell her. The girl whispered, Uncle Derek hit me, because I was singing. The doctor made notes, then sighed. We're documenting this. I'll file it officially. She pulled Audrey aside. Her physical injuries will heal, but emotionally, she's showing signs of acute stress, nightmares, anxiety, hypersensitivity. This is consistent with trauma-related acute stress disorder. Audrey felt the floor drop under her feet, but she didn't cry. Instead, she said quietly, Can you give me a full report? I'm filing a police report. Today. Audrey sat at Tara's desk with her laptop open. The house was silent. Lily was asleep in the next room. She clicked Compose to HR@Meridian Financial. Come BR@brighterfuturesfund.org. info@mentorminds.org. Subject: For review, Mr. Derek Thompson. She attached the audio file. It was titled 04-27-lakehouseincident.wave. Then she wrote, Not a plea, not a story, just one sentence. This is the man you trust with your name, your children, and your reputation. Signed, Audrey Thompson. She hovered over send and clicked. There was no satisfaction, no dramatic music, no instant reply, just silence. But it was the loudest silence of her life. The fallout came fast, not with sirens, but with silence, inbox pings, and closed-door meetings. On Monday morning, Derek walked into the glass building of Meridian Financial, unaware that every eye behind every cubicle already knew. By noon, the email went out. Effective immediately, Mr. Derek Thompson is suspended pending investigation. 3 hours later, his name was removed from the company website. By evening, the Brighter Futures Foundation issued a statement. We are horrified and deeply disturbed. Mr. Thompson has been removed from all affiliations with our organization. Even the Mentor Minds youth program, where Derek once gave TED-style talks on leadership, dropped him without hesitation. But nothing hit harder than what came next. That night, Natalie, his wife, stood in the doorway of their bedroom. She held her phone. The audio was playing. She had listened. Every second. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just said, I stayed through the manipulation, through the gaslighting, but not this. Never this. She packed one suitcase and walked out the door without looking back. The texts came late at night. First from Eleanor. You're tearing this family apart, Audrey, over one little outburst. Then from Howard. It was a slap. That's not abuse. Stop embarrassing us. Audrey stared at the screen. The same pattern. Minimize. Deflect. Blame. Even now, after the audio went viral, after Derek lost everything, they were defending him. Not Lily. Never Lily. Audrey didn't reply. She had nothing left to explain. But the world had already answered for her. The clip titled, Uncle Hits Niece for Singing at Family Breakfast, had over 4.3 million views. Comments poured in. This mother is braver than anyone in that room. You protected your daughter when no one else would. That slap was generational trauma in one sound. Audrey didn't post it. Paul didn't either. Someone else at the table must have leaked it. And now the world was watching. It started with one phone call, then another, then 3 more. Cousin Beth, Uncle Ray, even Derek's old nanny from years ago. Each said the same thing. I saw him hurt another child. It wasn't just Lily, but no one wanted to believe me back then. Audrey listened, heart sinking, fists tightening. How many children had been silenced in the name of keeping the peace? How many birthdays, Christmas dinners, and lake house weekends had they all sat at the same table while pretending nothing was wrong? This wasn't just about a slap anymore. This was about a pattern, a system, a wall of silence built over decades. And now it was cracking from the inside. The same family who once called Audrey dramatic now whispered, she was right. She saw it long before we did. And she had the courage to do what we didn't. The invitation came by handwritten letter, elegant cursive ink on ivory cardstock. Grandmother Martha, 87 years old, once the quiet matriarch in the background, had spoken. She summoned every branch of the Thompson family to the lake house, cousins, aunts, uncles, even those who hadn't spoken in years. On a gray Sunday morning, they gathered in the sunroom beneath framed portraits of generations past. Then Martha, frail but sharp, stood with her cane and said, "This family has built itself on silence, on who we protect and who we ignore, but no more." She turned to face Derek, seated stiff in the corner. "You hurt that child, and everyone here, everyone needs to decide, will we keep pretending or will we finally do what's right?" No one spoke, not even Eleanor. Martha's voice cracked, not from age, but from years of grief. "If you remain silent today, then you're no better than the hand that struck her." Paul stood up slowly. No one noticed the tiny speaker in his palm until the room filled with a sound no one could unhear. The slap, Lily's startled cry, Eleanor's cold laughter, Derek's voice, "She needs to learn shame." Then silence. Some lowered their heads, some couldn't look at Audrey. But Catherine, Audrey's aunt, rose from her chair, trembling. "I saw it," she said, voice shaking. "Not just this time. Years ago, I saw Derek grab little Ethan by the arm so hard he bruised." I said nothing. I told myself it wasn't my place. And I regret it. I regret it every day. Her hands covered her face as tears spilled out. Paul stepped back. The speaker clicked off. The silence afterward was deafening. The lake house, once the symbol of legacy, was now full of ghosts, memories no one dared speak of, until now. And the first bricks of the wall, the one built by silence, had begun to crumble. Natalie stood at the top of the staircase, suitcase in hand. Her face was pale, but her eyes no longer held fear, only clarity. "I'm leaving," she said flatly. "I've filed for divorce." Derek opened his mouth to speak, but Natalie raised a hand, calm, controlled, devastating. "You didn't just fail as a husband, you failed as a father. And I won't let my children grow up thinking this is love." A gasp rippled through the room, but Natalie didn't cry. She walked straight past everyone, heels echoing on the wood floor as if marking the rhythm of a new beginning. Then Eleanor, for the first time in years, broke down. "I just wanted us all to get along," she sobbed. Audrey, standing beside Lily, met her mother's gaze with a quiet fire. Getting along doesn't mean covering up abuse. Peace built on silence isn't peace. It's surrender. It was a warm spring afternoon 6 months later. Lily stood at the center of a small community center stage. The room wasn't grand. There were no chandeliers or polished floors. But there was something else. Safety, love, real family. Her audience Tara, holding a bouquet of wildflowers, Paul standing near the back with misty eyes, her school friends clapping eagerly, and Audrey, her mother, hand over heart, tears rolling down her cheek. The music began, and Lily sang. Her voice wasn't loud, but it was clear. no tremble, no shame, just a 6-year-old girl singing her favorite melody, as if the world finally made space for her voice. When she finished, the room didn't erupt in wild applause. Instead, everyone stood in quiet awe, not for perfection, but for courage. Audrey whispered to herself, "That's my girl." Audrey adjusted the microphone on her lapel. The conference room was quiet, not silent with judgment, but attentive. Rows of parents, educators, and young mothers sat before her. On the projector screen behind her were 5 words. Silence is not protection. Speaking up is survival. She took a deep breath. I used to believe staying quiet kept the peace, but silence only fed the cycle. Audrey paused, eyes scanning the room. Now I speak. I speak for my daughter, for the girl I once was. For every child told to hush when they needed help. Applause followed, soft at first, then rising. She didn't need validation, but she did feel something new: freedom. Outside, life moved forward. Audrey had just been promoted at her job, not because of her past, but because of who she became. And not once in 6 months had she called her parents. She didn't need permission anymore. She had built her own name, not on obedience, but on truth. They say family is everything, but Audrey learned something else. Family isn't the place that silences you. Real family is where your voice rises and no one dares to dim it. That day, as Lily's laughter echoed in their sunlit apartment, Audrey looked at her daughter and smiled. They were small, they were rebuilding, but they were free, and they were finally home. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who hurt you the most. And sometimes healing begins the moment you stop trying to please them. Audrey's story reminds us silence doesn't keep the peace, it feeds the pain. And speaking up, even when your voice shakes, can be the beginning of freedom, justice, and love. Let this be a reminder. Your voice matters. Your child's voice matters. And no one, not even family, has the right to silence it. If this story moved you, if it made you think about what real family means, subscribe to Whispers of Life for more true emotional stories that speak truth to power and help heal the scars we're told to hide. Because your voice, it matters. And here, we'll never let it be silenced. Hit the bell. Share your story. Let's rise together.